On November 10th, 2025, a massive explosion just ripped through the heart of New Delhi, right near one of its most famous landmarks. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what happened, who the authorities think is responsible, and why this attack could mark a really troubling new chapter for the city. So let's set the scene. The date, November 10th, 2025. The city, Delhi. It was a day that started out just like any other, but it would end in absolute tragedy. So what exactly went down? How did a super busy area, an area that's always packed with tourists and locals, suddenly become the center of such a deadly attack? Let's get right into the details. Okay, so let's start at ground zero with the explosion itself. What do we actually know about the moment the blast hit and the chaos that erupted right after? The source of the explosion was a white Hyundai i20, and the location? Well, that was no accident. It happened right near Gate 1 of the metro station for the Red Fort, which, as you know, is a massive historical landmark. It's a magnet for huge crowds. The blast itself triggered a fire, and it just tore through other cars nearby, creating a scene of absolute mayhem. Once the smoke finally began to clear, the true, devastating cost of this attack started to come into focus. And at the same time, the very first clues started to surface. Let's look at the human toll and how the investigation got started. At first, as the news was breaking from that chaotic scene, the initial reports were just grim. The first confirmed death toll was 8. But as the hours ticked by, that number, tragically, kept climbing. It eventually settled at 13 confirmed dead. And the toll didn't stop there. Beyond the fatalities, more than 20 other people were injured, many of them very seriously, caught in the blast and the fire that just ripped through the area. There was really no beating around the bush from the officials. The Indian government moved fast, and they classified this event for what it was, stating very clearly that this was being investigated as a deliberate terrorist act. So the official response was immediate. India's top counterterrorism task force, that's the NIA, or National Investigation Agency, they took charge right away. A case was filed under 2 really serious laws. Investigators also quickly figured out the explosive material was likely ammonium nitrate fuel oil, which is a common but really deadly component in these kinds of bombs because the ingredients are so easy to get. And right from the start, the initial theory pointed toward the grim possibility of a suicide attack. You might be wondering, what is the UAPA? Well, it stands for the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. It's India's most stringent anti-terror law, and it's designed specifically to prosecute acts that threaten the country's sovereignty. So when you see this law get invoked, you know the authorities are treating this with the absolute utmost seriousness. Now, a key suspect has been identified, a man named Dr. Umar Mohammed, who they believe was the driver of that car bomb. But the investigation is looking way beyond just one person. Agencies are actively exploring potential cross-border links to Jaish-e Mohammed, or JEM, a Pakistan-based terror group that has a long, violent history of attacks in India. As shocking as this attack was, it's really important to understand that it doesn't exist in a vacuum. To really get the full picture here, we need to look back at Delhi's painful history with these kinds of terror acts. Yeah, this is sadly not the first time Delhi has been through this kind of horror. You can see a tragic pattern here. The market blast back in 1996, the absolutely devastating coordinated bombings that targeted festival shoppers in 2005, and then the 5 synchronized blasts across the city in 2008. This 2025 attack is just the latest entry in a long and heartbreaking history. Let's actually compare these major attacks for a second. The 2005 bombings, which were blamed on Lashkar-e-Taiba, another group based in Pakistan, were by far the deadliest, killing over 60 people. The 2008 attacks were terrifying in a different way, perfectly synchronized across the city, and attributed to a domestic group, the Indian Mujahideen. The 2025 bombing, with 13 killed, now points to a different group entirely, Jaish-e-Mohammed. What this really shows is how the perpetrators and their methods have shifted over the decades. Okay, so let's bring this all together. Why is this specific attack so significant? What are the bigger implications here, beyond the immediate tragedy? First things first, the location. The Red Fort is not just any landmark. It's a powerful, potent symbol of India's history and its national identity. So to target a location so close to it is a very clear message. It's an attempt to strike right at the heart of the nation. It's as much an attack on a symbol as it is on people. Second, an event like this just reinforces the reality of a persistent and very serious security threat. It immediately raises some really difficult questions about just how vulnerable our crowded public spaces and iconic sites are, not just in Delhi, but all across the country. And finally, there's the huge potential for political fallout. I mean, if the investigation confirms a definitive link to a cross-border group like Jaish-e-Mohammed, it would almost certainly escalate diplomatic and political tensions throughout the entire region. And all of this leaves us with the most critical question looking forward. As the city mourns and the investigation continues, the real challenge becomes, how do you respond? How is this attack going to reshape security protocols, public vigilance, and counterterrorism strategy in one of the world's biggest and most vibrant capital cities? That is the big question, and frankly, the answer remains to be seen.